All right, it's 9 a.m. here in Singapore, and it is 9 p.m. in our nation's capital. And in less than 24 hours, the DOJ's watchdog is scheduled now to release this all-important IG report. 18 months we've all been waiting. And as we speak, we have a team of experts lined up. They will be analyzing the 500-plus pages in this report line by line, and we will break it all down, I promise, as soon as we get it. And also tonight, withstanding pressure from Rod Rosenstein and other obstructionist bureaucrats in the DOJ, this impending report should shed a critical light on what were the crimes of Hillary Clinton and how the FBI, the DOJ, high-ranking members of the Obama administration completely and intentionally botched this criminal investigation. And, of course, the contents of this report could be totally ruined by Rod Rosenstein and his bureaucratic friends at the Department of Justice. Remember, this report can be very embarrassing for all of them. So tonight we're asking the questions. Will this report include massive redactions? Was the report altered by the upper echelon of the DOJ? Were Michael Horowitz's findings twisted and parsed or altered in any way? We're going to have a full report tomorrow you don't want to miss. Now, of course, the facts, they're not even in dispute. Look at the side of your screen. Hillary Clinton, we know, fact, it is irrefutable, violated 18 U.S.C. 793, the Espionage Act. She mishandled, she destroyed classified, top secret, special access programming information. It's a fact. She deleted 33,000 subpoenaed emails, 18 U.S.C. 2071. That's a fact. She acid washed her hard drive with bleach bit, and that's a fact, too. And she destroyed, literally had aides destroyed her mobile devices with a hammer. That's a fact. And, of course, remember Christian Saucier. He spent a year in prison for 6 pictures on his cell phone of the submarine he was proud to work on. Far less severe than anything Hillary Rodham Clinton did. That, too, is a fact. And we also know that Comey and Trump hater Peter Strzok, they started writing the exoneration of Hillary in early May of 2016. But they didn't interview her and 17 other witnesses until early July. And then 3 days later, magically, they exonerated her. And we know they pulled out the legal definition of gross negligence, and they pulled out the foreign intel agencies likely hacked into that server in that bathroom closet. That is a fact. Now, we have a very important developing story we got to tell you about tonight, and that is the Deputy AG, there you see on your screen that we just mentioned, Rod Rosenstein. Now, according to reporting from our very own Catherine Herridge, the Deputy AG of the United States of America actually threatened to subpoena the emails and other records of several Republican members of Congress and their staffs. And, of course, after losing his temper, which, according to multiple sources I know, he frequently does, he launched into what was described as a personal attack against a congressional staffer. Now, this all came after the House Intel Committee ramped up its oversight efforts surrounding multiple DOJ-led investigations back in January. In other words, let me make this clear. Rod Rosenstein was trying to bully, intimidate, threaten House Republican, House Intel Committee chairmen and their members from following and doing their constitutional duty of oversight. We have in this system, in our country, checks and balances, separation of powers. It's actually called the U.S. Constitution. And by the way, you should, and I will call it reprehensible, that anybody in the Department of Justice would ever use their power or threaten to use their power as, in this case, America's de facto top law enforcement official to literally intimidate members of Congress, to prevent them from doing their job. Now, former Chief Assistant U.S. Attorney Andrew McCarthy, he summed it up this way, caught the whole essence of this. Rod Rosenstein's subpoena threat, he's conflicted and he's acting like it. And meanwhile, Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz, he's also rightly speaking out. Watch this.
This is a classic dispute between separation of powers. Yeah. The legislature has the power, obviously, to oversee and investigate the executive branch. And a member of the executive branch, which is what Rod Rosenstein is, shouldn't be able to bully the legislative branch. He should be transparent. He should turn over the documents. He should be cooperative. And Congress should be cooperative with the executive branch.
Professor Dershowitz is 1,000% right. Listen to legal expert, attorney Jonathan Turley, professor. He's also slamming Rod Rosenstein. Take a look.
I think the threat, even one for a civil subpoena, was really reckless. He shouldn't have done it. He is subject to the oversight of the House and Senate committees. These committees have a history of rather poor oversight. This is for those of us who have argued for years that these committees need to exercise real oversight, demand documents, and not back down. This is actually a refreshing trend. The allegation that one party used the FBI to investigate the opposing party is one of the most serious matters for oversight in our system. It goes to the very heart of our electoral system and our governmental system. So there's every reason for the members to want to see these documents.
And now some members of Congress, they're also firing back. Congressman Gowdy and Meadows just revealed a resolution calling out Rod Rosenstein for his threats to subpoena. Now, of course, this all comes in the shadow of the rampant obstruction of justice that we know has been going on with the DOJ not willing to hand over documents, including specific requests from the House Intel Committee Chairman Devin Nunes over documents surrounding the FBI's use of informants in the Trump campaign. Now, Nunes set a deadline for yesterday, and the DOJ completely ignored that deadline. That is really problematic. Rod Rosenstein, I have a question. What are you hiding? Why are you obstructing? Why are you intimidating, threatening, harassing congressional members and their staffs? Now it's time for Rod Rosenstein to step aside or be fired in this case, because if this is an attempt of obstruction of justice, Mr. Rosenstein, why won't you let Congress do their job? Now, according to new Politico poll numbers, look at this. Mueller's public image, Rod Rosenstein appointed Mueller, is at an all-time low. People are beginning to understand. The AP now reporting that Mueller's team is, quote, worried that Russian intelligence services will use a criminal case in Washington to gather information about its investigation and U.S. intelligence gathering methods. We're going to have a lot more on that. They never should have filed those indictments. And tonight, by the way, I hope you can stomach this, your mainstream corrupt media, the Destroy Trump media, has now reached a new low. And as you know, despite so much success at home, on the economy, and abroad, not including this week here in Singapore, well, the president has been overwhelmingly portrayed negatively in the press. Earlier today, the president, well, he's fighting back. He tweeted out, quote, so funny to watch the fake news, especially NBC, fake news CNN. They're fighting hard to downplay the deal with North Korea. 500 days ago, they would have begged for this deal. Looked like war would break out. Our country's biggest enemy, well, it's the fake news so easily promulgated by fools. Now, the president is right, and has all the proof you'll ever need. You can't make this up. They call themselves news people. It's pathetic. A bunch of lazy, overpaid, so-called colleagues. And they have a radical left-wing agenda. It's obvious. Take a look.
Usually when Trump signs an agreement with a foreigner, it's a prenup.
Very, almost caveman-like.
Have you seen the,
it really is. He's
Mika,
like Fred Flintstone running the country. Writing things on a stone. Actually, not even able to do that.
President Trump said Kim Jong-un is absolutely invited to the White House. That's what he said, yeah. Unless, of course, Kim Jong-un wins the Super Bowl or the NBA championship.
Why the praises? I can see we got along okay. We all talk about political communiques like that when constructive talks, you know, the language. He's coming out like a kiss butt. It's outrageous. It's outrageous the way he talks. This guy's a killer.
A lot of the reason why we were on the brink of nuclear war last year, I mean, part of it, to be sure, was because of the North Korean nuclear tests and their missile tests, but also because of the reckless and irresponsible rhetoric from Donald Trump, ratcheting up the tensions. And so now this is kind of the arsonist getting credit for putting out the fire.
To believe that Kim Jong-un is going to give away his nuclear arsenal, which really gives him the power, I think we went too far, and perhaps nothing giving him validity.
Just because something hasn't happened before doesn't mean it's historic. That's one thing. I think when you call something historic, it means that it has a good chance of having lasting implications. And I think it's very unclear, at least to my layman's eye, that this does that.
Any previous president could have easily had a summit with any previous leader of North Korea because they've all been very eager to be legitimated by the president of the United States. And Donald Trump is the first one to agree to do that.
Now, meanwhile, over there at MSNBC, the conspiracy theorist's choice in cable news, you got liberal morning host Joe Scarborough, trashing Republicans who support the Republican commander-in-chief. Shocking. Take a look.
primary voters in the Republican Party have devolved into a Trumpist cult.
Right. Well, it's clear that conservatism, liberalism, voting records, none of those things matter. It is a cult of personality, and the president has an extraordinary hold over his base. And cult of personality is one good description for it.
The only cult are the people that watch that ridiculous morning show of yours. Now, you see, it doesn't matter what President Trump does. It doesn't matter how successful his agenda becomes or how much the quality of life for you, the American people, forgotten men and women, becomes. The media in this country is blinded by pathological hatred of this president, so much so that it is now outweighing their desire even for a robust economy and even peace in the world. This is sick. Now, the press is actively, clearly rooting for this president to fail. If he fails, the country fails, the world fails at all costs, even if it means a better quality of life.